Hey folks, I'm Rob Terrio and this is Tech Tips and the topic, paperless essays going digital. You know what? I don't like wasting paper. I don't like my students submitting assignments in paper format. I don't like collecting the papers. I don't like picking them up off the floor when they're slid under my door. I don't like putting them into my briefcase, and I don't like them piling up my desk or falling out and getting lost. I don't like paper. I don't like feeling guilty about having the Sasquatch of carbon footprints going to the photocopier and having my students go to the photocopier to print more paper. So a few years ago, I started having my students submit their essays digitally. And since then, I've created a whole series of different assignments that my students submit digitally. Audio files, video files, essay files. So I want to show you how to simply do paperless assignments with your students and mark them digitally and send them back digitally. Incredibly simple. I use Word 2010 and I have my students submit their essays either by email or through a software that scans for similarity like Turnitin or any other software that does the same thing. And I get their paper, and when I get their paper, I immediately save it under different names. So I save it usually with the word marked at the end. And that way I know it's separate from the paper they submitted to me originally. Now I'm going to mark it up using Word and I'm going to save it to PDF, and I like to do that just because it kind of locks it down. It takes out the editing feature from it. So I take a paper like this and I begin to read it. Now clearly marking papers digitally is not for everyone. Some people get sore eyes from staring at their computer. For me, it doesn't bother me too much. If you've got a tablet with a high resolution screen, even better, because it's a lot less hard on the eyes. So here's a paper, and I've crossed out the name of the student and the student number just for their protection. And we'll go through it here. So I'm going to read through it. And there's my name there, and I'm reading the essay, and it's in the format that I like. It's double spaced, it's Arial font, size 12, beautiful. I start to read it, and I come to a point here, and I may say to myself, is this APA format or is it not? And then I go up here to review, and then I click on new comment. And under comments, I say something about this citation, and we'll just say blah, 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 and we'll leave it at that, and then I move on. So personally, I find this a lot nicer than handwritten comments on the paper. In fact, I did my entire undergrad degree online, and I submitted my essays digitally. They were sent back to me in quote analog and with handwritten notes. Most of the time I couldn't even read the handwritten notes. So here you can typewrite your comments, and you can create long comments, short comments, whatever is most appropriate. Okay, so moving along here, I'm going through, and I'm reading stuff, and I might say, oh, this is really good, blah, blah, blah. Forgive my spelling. And then I continue to go through it, and I read it, and I read it, and I read it, and I highlighted this part just to remind myself. And here I might say something like, this is great information. Would really like to see quantitative studies cited here. Blah, blah, blah. So we do that with lots of spelling errors, and we continue on. If there's a grammatical error or spelling error, I might just highlight it, go to home, put a yellow marker on it there just to point out to them that there's a spelling error. Not that there is in this case, but so we go on. And so all my marking is done this way. All the comments are off in the margin. If I want to comment on a specific sentence, so I can highlight the entire sentence like this, and again go to review, go to new comment, and write a comment. This is fantastic. Best essay I've ever read. You should become an author. I really think you have potential. And then we go on, and we do the same thing throughout. Then I come to the references, and the same thing. Again, is this APA format or whatever format you happen to use? You can make a comment. Is it primary research? Is it secondary research? Do they have the meta-analysis that you were looking for, etc., etc., etc. And then once I've done that, I've been through it, I go back up to the top, and I'm probably going to do something here about marks. So maybe a few more comments to say, see additional comments down below. And then I'll put mark, comma, and we'll plug the mark in there later, and I'll put Professor Rob Terrio here. Now, to do the mark, I use a rubric, and let's go over to the rubric now. So I use an Excel spreadsheet for my rubric, and there are many, many samples of rubrics on the internet. You can look them up by Googling it. And typical rubric would be level 0 to 4, 4 being the highest mark. And so in this particular rubric, for example, here's a course name at the top. And here we have ideas, concepts, themes, medical literacy, analysis, use of evidence, use of essay formats, citations, references, bibliographies, etc. And so I just assign a score, and you can set this up. What I love about Excel is it tabulates the score. So let's say under ideas, concepts, I will give a 4. Medical literacy, I'll give a 4. Develops ideas well, I'll say I'll give a 3. Evidence, I'll say a 3. Essay format, we'll say a 3. And you could say 3.5 or 2.5. You could go decimal points if you wanted to. Citations, we'll say 4. They did an excellent job. And then here it tabulates the percentage, and this formula is simply, as you can see, it's column G, and it's G3 through G8 divided by 4, which is the maximum score, times 1, and that value would be in percentage, as you can see up here, and that gives me the percentage. Student name is over here, and then I'm done. Perfect. And I create a student name for each tab right along the way. So this is all templates that I just simply duplicate. And now once I'm so this is a single file. And now once I'm done and I want to save this in the students folder, I go to File and I choose Save As. And under Excel Workbook, I slide to PDF format. And then here I'll put the student's name, and we'll say this is blah. Last name, ironically, blah. Rubric for Patient Care Theory 1, and boom, it's done. And hey, here it is in PDF format, a single sheet. It only saves the sheet that you were working on, not all of the sheets for all of your students, so just the one sheet. So you can see the rubric nice and clearly. It's got the scores over here on the right. It's got the mark at the end there, and I've got the student name. Now once I've done the rubric, I can go back to that original essay paper and plug the mark in. And so here's our original paper, and there's the mark, 88%. Yay, all done. Now all I have to do is save this in PDF format as well. So I'm going to go up to File. I'm going to do a Save As, and I'm going to scroll from Word document here down to PDF, and you can do that in Word 2010 and older versions of Word as well. And then we'll put the student's name at the beginning of this, which is blah, blah. I'll say underscore, and boom, it's saved. And now here we have the PDF version. So I've converted it from Word to PDF. I have all my comments on here, student name, my name, the mark. They can go further down. There's some great comments, blah, blah, blah. More, excellent work, blah, blah, blah. Quantitative data, I'd really like to see some of that, blah, blah, blah. Go down to the bottom, references, comments, etc. However long it takes you to normally mark an essay by hand, will take you about the same amount of time digitally. Now once this is done, I have two files. I have my essay that's marked, I have my rubric, and I just simply open up my email or whatever learning management system you use, and I send an email to that student. I attach those two files. If you're using a software program that checks the paper for similarity, then you can just include the similarity index as well. That would make it 3 files, and I just email it to the student. I make sure that I'm sending the right marked essay and the right marked rubric to the right student. So that you have to be diligent about, because we don't want to send it to the wrong student. That would be really bad. And then you're done. That's it. No paper, no clutter, no loss, no puddles, no wet papers, nothing. It's fantastic.